Well, it's now 26 days until the election on May the 3rd. It's going to seem like an eternity for some of us. The latest Newspoll shows us that Labor is ever so slightly increasing its lead over the coalition. Here's our Sky News reported it this morning.
The ALP's primary vote remains steady at 33%. The coalition's has dropped 1 point to 36. That's its lowest level since June 2024. One Nation's share increased by 1 point to 7%, while the Greens and other candidates, and that would include Teals, they remain at 12. Labor has increased its lead on two-party preferred, 52 to 48 now. The last time the ALP led the coalition by that margin was in May of 2024.
Let's go to the former Labor senator and expert number cruncher, John Black. Good to talk to you again, John. You're really just a flipping of a percentage point between the coalition and One Nation. It doesn't mean a lot, does it? But the really worrying thing for the coalition is that now that the actual campaign is on and you expect attitudes to solidify, there's been no movement at all to the coalition in primary vote terms.
No, look, around about 6 weeks ago, it looked like the coalition was in a very strong position to win majority of the votes and majority of the seats. But in the last 4 to 6 weeks, that position has been stabilised and partly reversed. If you had a look at the Newspoll, you've got to be cautious about any poll that rounds figures up to 1%, Chris, because it could be a difference of only 0.2 or 1%. So I treat that with some degree of caution. It's pretty much a result, as far as I can see, that is pretty consistent with what was achieved at the last election, which means a status quo result in terms of the House of Reps seats. But the one that I've been following more closely is the tangent to the curve as a measure of what's happening this week, and the last week before that has been the Resolve poll, and that shows around about a 2% swing against the government after preferences nationally, and it still shows significant swings against the government in Victoria and slightly smaller swings in New South Wales and also in Queensland. Both of the major parties look like they're down in Queensland. So the election is still there for either leader to be won or lost. But you'd have to say that the last week or so, the opposition leader seems to have lost any sort of sense of discipline in terms of what he's trying to achieve nationally, in terms of the economy, and what he's trying to achieve in terms of winning a majority of votes in a majority of seats. They're somewhat different things. But when it comes to election time, when you're actually in the middle of the campaign, you need to focus on a majority of votes in a majority of seats. And I'm not sure it's evident to me that he's got a clear impression of who those voters are.
Yeah, I would have thought that a month ago it was clear that Peter Dutton was setting the agenda and leading the political debate, but over the last month he's fallen by the wayside. He looks like he's been dictated to rather than setting the agenda. And I agree with you, when you look at those numbers, especially Newspoll, you're looking at pretty much the numbers of the last election campaign, which is hard to imagine. It's a real indictment on the government in many respects. Their lowest ever primary vote at an election, they haven't been able to improve on it. But it means the coalition hasn't been able to get people across. Do you think that's largely an issue of the campaigning by Peter Dutton, or is the other complicating factor, it's a chicken and egg situation, I suppose, all those other options, One Nation polling quite strongly, and other, of course, would be including Clive Palmer and others on the right, they're probably dragging votes away?
Look, the 600-kilogram gorilla, of course, in all this is Trump.
Yeah.
What he's doing is causing voters to rally around the governments that they have right now. So that's just a natural thing, and there's nothing much that Dutton can do about that. But you're right, there are other options. You've got the trumpet of patriots, which is, leeching votes away, primary votes away from the Liberal Party and the Liberal National Party and the National Party itself. But it's not going to be giving them back in the same numbers that it's taking them away. So that is a serious problem for the coalition in terms of wanting to win a majority of seats. And you've got just a lack of cohesion in terms of the coalition's message. So it's not clear to me that they're actually focusing on voters in outer suburban seats who stand to benefit from some of the policies that they're putting forward. It took a week or so for me to see a shot of Dutton pouring petrol into a car.
Exactly. Extraordinary.
25 cents off. So